Greetings, friends and fellow cigar box guitar enthusiasts. Del Puckett here. Now look at this picture here. I'm going to zoom up on it, and I want you to study this thing. Not the reflection of the phone, or the reflection of the phone, but this. In fact, I will do a picture-in-picture, and I want you to pause this and then do a screen capture of it, and then I just want you to study it and stare. So we're going to concentrate on these areas right in here, where there's all these crazy harmonics, as well as these areas right in here where there's all sorts of crazy harmonics. Okay, so let me do the picture-in-picture, and then we will get back to looking at these harmonics. For this illustration, of course, we will be tuned E, B, E. But that has no bearing on the harmonics, because the harmonics are going to exist. Now, it's very important, the position of this floating saddle, because as this saddle moves around, then all of the harmonics are going to move around accordingly. So this has to be set up first. Okay, so this is set up, and you'll notice that it's at an angle, and that's because you have the thick string in the base and the skinny string on the top. So there is a reason why this is at angled, but we're not going to be talking about that right now. Just trust me that that is right. And so what that does is that renders the harmonics to be directly over the frets. For an example here. That's the 12th fret harmonic, and it lines up strategically right over that 12th fret. If it doesn't line up, then you're going to have to move this back or forth, depending on where it is, to get those harmonics to line up strictly, directly over that 12th fret, and you'll be able to see that in the diagram. Next, what I do just for fun is I grab a permanent Sharpie, not one of those erase, like these kinds here, dry erase. These are the worst. You don't want to use this. You want to use a permanent marker. Look at my fingers. Permanent, man. Just don't shh. And then what I do is I start marking up the strings. And I just do that because it's easier to see them when there's little marks on there. Now, if you can, sometimes you just go by the marks underneath, like the pattern of the logo, and you can just remember where the pattern on the logo is and get the harmonics. But it's just easier just to get a Sharpie and mark the actual fret itself. So. Oh, that one wore off. So when they wear off, you just put it back on. So yeah, if you play it, it's going to wear off. It doesn't matter if it's permanent or, I mean, you can't. The dry erase, you can't. You touch it once and it's gone. This one here, you can at least hit it 3 or 4 times before it disappears. Okay, so now. We are going to put the harm in harmonics, because these things can be deadly. So I figured, what would be the harm in learning? Now you'll notice that the harmonics on this side are mirror images in perfect symmetry of the harmonics that are on this side. So if you have kind of a mental breakdown or a mental spatial understanding of where those harmonics are here, then it's easier to translate it, or what's the word when you change keys, modulate or whatever, to over here. So it's like a symmetrical, same idea on both sides. And so each one of these harmonics is a division of the string. So you have the string, which is whatever length, and then you're going to divide it in half by putting your finger right here at the 12th fret. So that's divide by 2. Then you have divide by 3 at the 7th fret. Divide by 4 at the 5th fret. Divide by 5. You think it's the fret, but we're actually getting off the fret here. So this is actually about depending on the scale of your instrument, it's about that far below the fret. Now you can't see because of my fingernail polish there. Right about there. So about a quarter of an inch down. You'll use your ear. You'll hear it pop out right off the bat. So I'm about a quarter of an inch, maybe a little bit less, maybe 3/16 of an inch behind the fret there. This is divide by 5. Then divide by 6 is about a 1/16 of an inch above the fret here at the 3rd fret. And again, you'll hear that note. It's not directly over the fret, it's just a slightly bit on this side of the fret. Again, refer to the diagram. Now, that's divide by 6. Divide by 7, this is an interesting harmonic. The divide by 7, which is just about maybe about a quarter of an inch on the south side of their 3rd fret, right about there. That is what they call the septimal minor third, which is divide by 7. That one's really not used that much. They usually go with the divide by 6 for the minor third, not the divide by 7. And then the divide by 8 is about maybe about a little bit over a quarter of an inch above that fret. Now I say these are all relative to the scale of your instrument. If you have a larger scale instrument, obviously these gaps are going to be larger. And a smaller scale instrument, these gaps will be shorter. So it's just kind of like positionally, it's about right there in the middle of the fret, more on the downside than it is on the upside, but definitely not in the middle, right there. And again, you got to use your ear. And it helps to kind of move it and listen at the same time. So now we're going to talk about the harmonics that exist all smashed up together here below this divide by 8. So this is divide by 8. So let's just quick review. You have 0, then divide by 2, 12th fret, divide by 3 at the 7th fret, divide by 4 at the 5th fret, divide by 5 just below the 4th fret, divide by 6 just above the 3rd fret, divide by 7 about a quarter of an inch on the other side of the 3rd fret, and then divide by 8 about a quarter inch above that fret. Okay, so now we're going to talk about divide by 9. Now divide by 9 is a tricky one. It's right about a 1/16 of an inch above that harmonic right there. Then divide by 10 is about a quarter of an inch on the other side there. And then divide by 11 is right in there somewhere, but we want divide by 12. And divide by 12 is like somewhere in this vicinity right here. You'll hear that octave. So like I said, everything that occurs up here also occurs down here. And so you can see that the harmonics right here are starting to get kind of tight and mashed up. And I'll play these guys up here. They exist. They exist. So study that diagram. I will put the diagram. In fact, I'll do this here. I'll do 2 things for you. I'll put the diagram right here, and I will also include it at the end of this video. All right. How's that for putting the harm in harmonics? You need to play around with them, man. Get them. I mean, I do recommend using a pick and really digging in, man, to put some. Oh yeah, and then you can do chords. These are cooler. You can get all crazy. for sure. As long as you're having fun, you got to have fun. If you like these videos, be sure to subscribe. And don't forget, there is a Patreon, and there's exciting things happening at my Patreon. There is a link in my banner above. All right, guys, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more. See you around.